Yo, what is up everybody? Chris here from Fake Sports News, back at it again with another video. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys a quick recap of what happened during the first week's matches of Week 1 of Stage 1 of the 2023 CDL season, as well as giving you guys my thoughts on what you can expect going into today's matches, your time and my time, at time of recording, and the rest of the matches this weekend. So without further ado, let's look right at last week's results. So we kicked things off with my hometown team, Atlanta Faze, taking on the Boston Breach. You guys know I was expecting it to be a Faze 3-1 smoke show. I thought this was going to be a showcase of what's to come for the rest of the year. I hope this wasn't a showcase. No, I'm joking. First match is always first match. Like, you can't really read too deeply into the first match. It's the first match of the season. So all these matches, I mean, it's opening weekend, right? Anything can happen. We've seen some crazy things happen opening weekend in previous CODs. So, Breach 3-1 Atlanta Faze, Minnesota Rokkr 3-1 to Optic Texas. That was super controversial. And we found out today, well, yesterday, my time and your time, that Optic actually forfeited map 3, and the CDL ended up making them forfeit the entire series. So now, with that little bit of understanding, I do think it's BS, the decision. I think they should have just been forfeited map 3, and they should have had a chance to play map 4, and then potentially map 5 if they won map 4. In the case of the LA Thieves and the Vegas Legion, as I was expecting it to, 3-1 in favor of the Thieves. They looked very comfortable, and the Legion also looked very good. Their S&D looked very solid, and the Thieves looked good in respawn like we expected them to. Now, our last matchup of Friday was really surprising to me. We had a big-time upset. The LA Guerillas really took it to the Seattle Surge. They beat them in... Let's see. Actually, let's just see. So they beat them in, I believe, the opening hardpoint. Did they? No, Surge destroyed them in the opening hardpoint. And then they won 6-5 in the second Fortress, which, of course, was an S&D, obviously. They also won the Control 3-2, super close, and then Surge came back in the Game 4 hardpoint on Hotel, and they lost the Game 5 Hotel S&D. So that was interesting. It was a really good series. If you haven't seen it, please be sure to go back and watch it, and skip past like the hour and a half or hour-long delay that we had to brave through. So great matchup, great showing for the Guerillas, and not really a terrible showing for Seattle. There's definitely some work to be done for the Seattle Surge, but they don't look horrible. So overall, both teams can walk away with good feelings after that matchup. And then in our next matchup, of course, our first matchup of Saturday, we saw the Minnesota Rokkr taking on the Toronto Ultra. The Battle of the North never disappoints, and the Ultra, they really put up a valiant effort, but they just couldn't keep up with this new look Rokkr team. These guys are just on a different level. This team comp really works, in my opinion. Cammy has looked really good. Bance has looked very, very good as the OBJ, and most likely the IGL. And Afro is Afro. I mean, come on, and Attach picked up where he left off last year. So Rokkr's looking great. They have, I believe, an 87% chance of getting first place in their pool going into the Pro-Am. Shout out to Dr. Doug Lieb on Twitter for that stat. And yeah, looking at our next matchup, we had the Ravens taking on the Subliners, and this was a major upset. You guys know I thought that based on scrim results, the London Royal Ravens were, without a doubt, the worst team in the game. I was hoping this wasn't the case. You guys know I've always loved Trey Zero. Always been one of my favorites on the channel. So happy to see him winning. Asim, always been an underrated SMG. Happy to see him winning. Paul X, you guys know I love Paul X. And Nasty, you know, one of my boys, my brother, Paj, if he's watching, he coached Nasty up in Challengers and Gizmo as well. So always happy to see Nasty succeed. And yeah, it was a great showing for the Ravens. They 3-0'd Subliners, and they built on that momentum. More on that in a second, though. In our next matchup, we had the Breach taking on the Surge, and it was pretty much what you'd expect. The Breach looked great, apart from map 3, maybe it was a Control that they lost, but the Breach looked great. Surge also looked really solid. I think it was the Control that they ended up winning. I'm pretty sure it was. When I logged the stats before, I'm pretty sure it was Control. But anyways, Surge looked great in this series. Going up against the Boston Breach, who look to be really a top 4 contender right now. So good showing for them. Definitely something they can build on going into this weekend. Then in our next matchup, we have the Mutineers taking on the Vegas Legion, and this was a heartbreaker for the Vegas Legion. They went up don't get me lying, guys. It might have been 5-4 in the S&D. They ended up losing in a round 11. I couldn't believe it. Game 5, round 11, the first one that we've seen. Everybody rushes kitchen. Vico gets a 2-piece to open up the round, make it a 4v2 off the bat. It was crazy. I mean, you guys know I have been a low-key Paris fan forever, literally forever since day one, and this made me sad. So, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Moving on to our next matchup. This is the race to the bottom from last week. If you watched last week's video, I said that our two worst teams are going head-to-head, and this is going to be a question of who blinks first and who's worse. And you know what? It was actually a really, really good match. The Ravens and the Guerillas have impressed the hell out of me so far, and I know they're going to continue that throughout the rest of the season, so I'm curious to see how they end up placing at our first major in a couple weeks. The Ravens walked away with the W here just because they had W Riz. No, I'm joking. But Game 5, they beat the Guerillas 6-1. I know. I had to let that sink in too, but the Guerillas might be a hardpoint team and not an S&D team. It's crazy. It's crazy. They beat Surge in S&D, but the Ravens beat them 6-1. I mean, that's definitely got me questioning their S&D, especially since their coaching lineup changed a lot with Ricky becoming a GM instead of one of their head coaches. I think Bevel's also left, but I might be wrong. So I don't know what their coaching situation is looking like now, but it was definitely interesting to see them lose that Game 5 because LAG has typically been, if not a lock to win S&Ds, very much a contender, and 6-1 is not giving contender, to use a turn of phrase. So in our next matchup, we had Optic Texas taking on the Florida Mutineers and Revenge Tour, Smoke Show, 3-0, whatever you want to call it, Bob's your uncle. Series was over in like 20 minutes. And I started playing ranked halfway through just because I heard the Florida comms and I felt so sad seeing how demoralized the guys were. I was just like, I can't watch this. Let me just do something else till the Thieves Faze match. And boy, did the Thieves Faze match not disappoint. It came all the way down to a Game 5. We're not going to talk about the Map 4 on the side of Atlanta Faze. That was not the greatest showing. They did win Map 1. Map 1 was really, really exciting. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch the entire series. It was great. The S&D was around 11. It was a 5-2, I think, choke from Faze. It was sad to see, but it was a darn good map. And Map 3, Thieves, I don't know what happened. They got Faze within, like, 11 lives. Maybe it was like 22-11 or something, and Faze clutched up on defense. I think they had 4 lives when the round ended, and Thieves maybe had 4 also, so it was like insane. It was like maybe 20-7 combined for Atlanta Faze going up against Thieves on defense there, so it was just a great hold from Faze, and I mean the matchup didn't disappoint. Definitely a matchup of the weekend in my opinion. And then in our last matchup, we had another shocker. I thought this would be a Game 5. I thought Subliners would really take Toronto Ultra to the brink and really test them, but they really didn't. So the Ultra walked away with a very comfortable 3-1. The Subliners, I believe, won the Map 2 S&D, or maybe it was Map 3, one of the two. Anyways, doesn't matter. They lost 3-1, so that's pretty definitive. The Ultra looked really good, apart from their performance against Toronto Ultra, the Minnesota Rokkr, in which they played them very closely. They looked really good this weekend. So that bodes well for them going into, of course, today and the rest of the weekend. And looking at our standings just very quickly, we, of course, have Minnesota Rokkr on top with 20 CDL points, undefeated. 6 maps won, 2 maps lost. Boston Breach, same position, 2-0, 6 maps won, 2 maps lost. Royal Ravens, same position, 2-0, 6 maps won, 2 maps lost. Optic Texas, of course, is 1-1 after the forfeit to Minnesota. LA Guerillas are also 1-1. So they did pretty well. They did a lot better than I was expecting. I thought they would go 0-2. I thought they would lose. No, I thought they would beat the Ravens, actually. I didn't think they would beat the Surge. I thought they would beat the Ravens. But they went 1-1, so you got to be happy with that. Ultra also went 1-1. Faze also went 1-1. Thieves also went 1-1. Mutineers also went 1-1. And then we had a few teams that are now 0-2, of course, below the amateur teams. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's just, it's kind of foul that they ranked the teams like holistically instead of filtering CDL from. It's just a violation. I mean, it's not intentional. They're not trying to violate, but I'm sorry, guys. It's just this is my first time seeing it. I find it funny. 0-2, 0-2, and 0-2 for the Seattle Surge, Vegas Legion, and New York Subliners, respectively. So big shockers here. Wasn't expecting to see any of these three teams down here. I thought at least all of them would get one win, and I thought that the LA Guerillas and the London Royal Ravens would definitely be down here. And I wasn't sure where the Mutineers would finish, if we're being honest. So I wasn't expecting the three other subliners, but hey, we move. And speaking of moving, nice segue, right? Looking at today's matches, we of course kick things off with the Seattle Surge versus the London Royal Ravens. I think the Surge will get it back today, especially with the M4 being GA'd. I think it gives Pred a lot more room to roam around the map, be annoying, and just be an absolute nuisance to ace him. And, of course, Nasty on the other side with the SMGs. Mac Melts, I think he's also going to be a much more impactful player on the map with the M4 being banned. I feel like M4 Mac has always been a meme, but now that he's on a sub, I feel like he's going to be really more of a complementary piece for Pred, just kind of helping him to set up for his playstyle. And I think it's going to lead to success tomorrow for the Surge, or today for the Surge, excuse me, and I think that's how they beat the Ravens. Now, in our next matchup, we have the Florida Mutineers taking on the Minnesota Rokkr, and I see this being a Minnesota Rokkr dub, but I don't think it'll be as easy as some of you guys are expecting it to be. The Florida Mutineers, they've looked very promising as a team, and even when they lost to Optic and they were getting, like, tossed, there were small mistakes that they were making, and they definitely could have pulled it together. It was just, Havoc had a rough series, and every map somebody just kind of fell off a little bit, but Major Maniac was absolutely cooking. What was he cooking? My God. I'm sorry, I had to go off, but what was that man cooking? He was going crazy. He has a 1.2 something. He's top 5 KDs right now, so he's absolutely cooking. Eventually, you have to assume that this will lead to more success in Mutineers, and they won't just have one singular series win. So we'll see where that comes later in the season. Maybe it comes this weekend. Maybe it comes to the Pro-Am. Who knows? In our next matchup, we of course have the Subliners taking on the Guerillas. And I think the Subliners will be more serious this week. The Guerillas look very solid. I have to say I was very surprised with the way that they played. I just like the way that they play Call of Duty. Their fundamentals and hardpoint are absolutely impeccable. I was watching Spart and RCs have really rough games, but they're still winning maps, the LA Guerillas. So that's the mark of a great team. You have to assume that a player of RC's caliber and a player of Spart's caliber, they will find their consistency again, and there'll be problems on the map. So that doesn't really bode well for the rest of the league. And the Guerillas are definitely a team to watch out for. But as it stands, I think the Subliners, it's just hard to bet against Hydra, Kismet, Skies, Priesta. I mean, it's hard to bet against those guys. Guerillas are a scrappy team. It could go either way. I'm going to back the Subliners just because I feel like they'll have a bounce back after going 0-2. I think they'll really show us something today. And then in our last match of the evening, we have Toronto taking on Atlanta. We have the Toronto Ultra running it back with Atlanta Faze. Of course, this is a Cold War Champs rematch, but like the quote about stepping in a river, this is not the same river, and these are not the same men on Ultra, and it's not the same AR on Faze. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. The grudge is definitely not there anymore, but it's always fun to reminisce as to what was a couple years ago and to see this matchup. Obviously, I'm thinking Faze walk away with this one just because I like Sandy, I like Scrappy, I like that team, but I just feel like the slaying power of Faze and their really embarrassing, let's call it, loss to the Boston Breach is going to be cause for a very interesting series for the Toronto Ultra, and I think it'll be a pretty dominant performance from Atlanta Faze. Now, looking at, of course, Saturday's matches, we kick things off with Faze taking on the Vegas Legion, and I mean, Vegas, they've looked really promising thus far in the season on many occasions, on many maps. It's just the small things that are making the difference for them. And you have to assume that they're going to start correcting those small things, especially with Clay and Donnie and Prolute and TJ working together. These are all guys who are a little bit older, so they take things a little bit more seriously and they really focus on, practice. They have the most reps of any team in scrims, and it definitely shows how mature and thoughtful the team is. So with that in mind, I think that it'll be a really close series between the two, map by map. I don't know if the scoreline will be close, but I do feel like map by map it'll be very close. Vegas has been playing great respawn. Their S&D has looked pretty solid, and their control has also looked pretty decent. So I think going up against Faze, who is still finding their footing in this game, I think that Vegas has a good chance to upset, and I also think that they're going to play Faze very tight. It might not show in the final map scoreline, but I think with each result on each map, it'll definitely show. Now in our next series, we have Optic Texas taking on the London Royal Ravens, and based on the way the Ravens have been playing, this is definitely going to be a very interesting series. I have Optic Texas walking away with it. It's just hard to doubt the personnel on the Optic Texas team. Shotzi, Illy, Scump, Dashy, it's just hard to doubt those guys. So I think Optic walk away with it, but London they've been looking like the real deal. So I don't know. I think this one also has upset potential, and I'm going with the favorites, but I do recognize that London is not a team to sleep on, and I do respect all of their possibility to win. Looking at our next matchup, we of course have the New York Subliners take on the Boston Breach. And I think the Breach walk away with this one, even if the Subliners show up making the improvements that I expect them to make, given the caliber of players that they have on the roster. I do expect the Breach to walk away with this one. I think the New York Subliners have a lot of adjustments to make because Troy or Sender just came into the team from Optic Texas. Of course, he's now the head coach, I believe. I don't know if D-Real is still the head coach. We'll see, but I don't know. I feel like bringing in a new coach and then bringing in 2 new players, there's going to be an adjustment period, and I think that's what Subliners are going through right now. So not cause for panic, but I definitely do see Breach walking away with this one. They only replaced 1 player and kept their coaching staff exactly the same. So I think Breach walk away with that one pretty comfortably. I feel like that will be the most comfortable result of the day because in our last matchup, we have the LA Thieves taking on the Florida Mutineers, and I feel like this one's a trap game. I really do. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I feel like the Thieves have looked very, very good. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like the Mutineers have also looked super, super strong. And, it's Call of Duty. If a team's looking super, super strong, don't count them all the way out. One thing that I've learned in my 4 years of covering this on the channel and my 10 years of watching, I've been watching since Black Ops 2. It's about to be 11 years. Expect the unexpected in COD. X Games 2014, I was not expecting Optic to win it all, but I was really happy when they did. And they beat EG to do it. So, anything can happen. No team is unbeatable, right? We see that happen all the time. And I think that the Mutineers might have upset in their veins this weekend. I don't know. We'll see. And then in our last day of action, we of course kick things off with the Rokkr taking on the Legion. And yeah, I can see how the Legion would definitely end up in 3rd place in their pool because wow, what a grueler of a schedule they had. Let's look back, ladies and gentlemen. LA Thieves, Florida Mutineers, then Atlanta Faze, followed by Minnesota Rokkr. So in my power rankings, they've gone up against my way too early power rankings. They go up against number 1 this week, right? Last week, they went up against number 2. And then this week, after they go up against number 1 in my way too early power rankings, they go up against number 3. I don't know what that was. They go up against number 3. So, with that being said, I feel like the Rokkr most likely win this. But if they are experimenting going into the major, assuming that they do win their series up here against where did they play? Oh, the Mutineers. Right. Assuming they win their series against the Mutineers, they might be testing some things out when they play the Legion, so the Legion could sneak a win away here if that's the case. Excuse me, but as it stands, I do see the Rokkr winning pretty convincingly. In our next matchup, we have the Surge taking on the Ultra, and based on what Surge we get this weekend with the M4 being banned, I feel like they have a really good chance to beat Toronto here. I favor them over Toronto ever so slightly. But then when I think about the fact that Scrappy will probably adjust very well to the Scar meta and it will only make Standy and Kleenex more comfortable, I just feel like the slight edge in the sub duo goes to the Toronto Ultra just because Standy and Kleenex are godlike subs to have on your team. And Pred is, Pred's top 2 and not 2, right? So he's definitely the best sub last year, without a question. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say just because it depends on the Mac that we get. He's the ultimate X factor for this team. If Mac is on point and he looks like Mac from Modern Warfare, Cold War, and even early Vanguard, then Surge definitely have this in the bag, in my opinion. The AR's not as impactful here, decidedly, just because, insight versus accuracy, like, respectfully, I feel like insight clears. So it's really just a question of Sib versus Scrappy, which is going to be a really interesting battle we'll see on the map. And if that's the case, I think the Surge take this. Sib is more experienced. The whole Seattle seems more experienced than a lot of these guys on Ultra. Stanley's only been in the league since Cold War. I know Sib has only been in the league technically since Vanguard, same for Pred, but, there's something to be said for just the experience of being in the CDL for a full calendar year. Scrappy hasn't yet. So we'll see how it goes. Slight edge to Seattle Surge, but realistically, I think based on the current form of teams that we've seen, Toronto Ultra win it. So I will definitively say that I think Ultra win this, and that's going to be my call. I'll say Ultra, but I do recognize that if Surge get back to basics, then they most likely win this. But final call, Ultra. In our next matchup, oh my god, what is up with the Thieves getting the crazy matchups on Sunday night at 6 p.m.? First Faze, now Optic. Okay, this is going to be insane. Alright, let me break this down a little bit. So, in terms of hardpoint, I feel like both teams are relatively on even footing. The Thieves have been pretty solid at hardpoint in scrims and in official matches. Optic Texas has looked phenomenal in hardpoint in their matches. Their S&D on both sides has left a lot to be desired. The Thieves have not looked as confident and as well practiced in S&D as they looked towards the end of last year. So they definitely, I think, will be scrimming leading up to the matches Thursday and Friday night and throughout the rest of the early part of the week. So I feel like Thieves will probably make a lot of improvements in S&D. I feel like they will definitely have gone over that a lot. And same with Optic Texas now that they've recruited JP as their stat guy. I'm going to go with Optic Texas. I just feel like based on the way that this game plays and the way that Scump has been playing, it's really hard to doubt those guys. Illy is also a wizard in S&D, as we saw last week. He put on an absolute masterclass. And I feel like Optic Texas, they're going to start cooking at a certain point. So I feel like this is point, right? Like, this is where Optic Texas start cooking. And I feel like they beat the Thieves in a 3-2. Yeah, I feel like it's an Optic Texas win. This might be a L take, but I feel like it's an Optic Texas win. In our last matchup of the week, we have the Boston Breach taking on the LA Guerillas. This is a super trap game, okay? I'm going to call it out right now before you guys are like, oh my god, this was such a crazy, crazy match. This is a trap game. LA Guerillas have a very good chance of winning this series, and here's why, okay? Their hard point is actually, I feel like, a mirror matchup of the Boston Breach's hardpoint in an interesting way, right? You have Wake and Zinni slaying out, absolutely slaying out, right? Flex, main AR, slaying out. Wake has been playing out of his mind. Zinni's been playing out of his mind. But then you have Vivid, and you also have Nero. And who do you have on the other side for the LA Guerillas on that sub-duo, right? Spart and Hook. Spart and Hook have been cooking. If you've been watching, you know they've been cooking. You have to expect that RCs and Spart will also kick up to play a really good team in a very big match. Those guys love playing good players, especially RCs. He loves playing the best of the best, and this is his revenge season. So, this, I feel like, is the match with the most trap potential this weekend. Also, the match with the most upset potential. Also, the last match of the weekend. So, got to build it up a little bit. But those are my honest thoughts. I feel like this is the most hard to predict game with the most upset potential and the most trap potential. So, with that in mind, I think Breach win it. I'm just going to be realistic and say I think Breach win it. They've looked absolutely phenomenal. But the LA Guerillas, they have a very strong fighting chance. So, just to give a super-duper quick recap, I'm going LRR. I almost said LA Ravens. London Royal Ravens. I'm thinking Minnesota Rokkr. I'm thinking Subliners. He said wearily. I'm thinking Faze. I'm thinking Faze again. I'm thinking Optic, Texas, Boston Breach, LA Thieves, Minnesota Rokkr, Toronto Ultra. I trolled you guys. You thought I was going to say Seattle Surge and flip-flop. Nope. I remember my definitive call. I'm thinking Optic, Texas in the second to last matchup of the week. And then I'm thinking Boston Breach to close things out. So these are our last matches for qualification heading into the Stage 1 Major, which is actually a Pro-Am. We're going to have 4 amateur teams. We're, of course, going to have Rokkr Academy, which is Rokkr Academy. We know who that is. Orglis, I believe I think that's Harry, Gizmo, Stevo, and Vortex. Decimate Gaming, I'm not too sure whose team that is. That might be Assault's team. I can't recall. No, that's LAG Academy. Awobabobs? How do I pronounce it? Awobabobs? Awobabobs. Alright, whatever. I'm spending too much time on this. But anyways, I think the best amateur team coming out of the amateur bracket is Rokkr Academy. I think they're the best available team, but I'll double check the rosters to make sure, and I'll put them on screen here. So I think Orglis is Gizmo's team. Please tell me I'm right about this. But anyways, I've let this drag on too long. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tried to keep it short and sweet. I'm so sorry I failed. But you guys know I want to bring you all the information that I possibly can and just flesh everything out. I got all the stats on hand. I go through this stuff meticulously. I watch every single match. I want to make sure that you guys are in the know. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the matches this weekend. I'm going to be doing a rebrand soon. So if you see a new name, don't click off. It's still me. It's just me under a new name. Hope you guys enjoy all the COD this weekend. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Be on the lookout for my major coverage coming next Friday. And yeah, I'll probably have some content throughout the week. I'm not sure. It depends on what my actual 9 to 5 looks like. But I'm trying to pump more content out when I get time. It's just haven't had time. Busy time of the year. So hope you guys enjoyed this video like I said before. And like I said, of course, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're brand new. Show some love to the channel. Share it with a friend, family member, or just someone that you know who likes COD. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Once again, this has been Chris from Fake Sports News, and I'm signing off. Hope you guys like the fact that I switched up the threads today. I got so much CDL gear. Might as well switch up the hat. You know, the shirt. Gotta drip out. You know what I'm saying? Got the AirPods in. Can't hear the broke boys. And anyways, too much talking. I'll catch you guys on the next video. And I'm signing off. Finally this time, Chris from Fake Sports News is signing out. Possibly for the last time. Maybe I'll rebrand. Who knows? And yeah, catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody.